Welcome back, everyone. The doctor is in. Today I'll be talking a little bit more about some of my BattleTech work. Specifically, today I'll be talking about when I wrote Historical Turning Points Mallory's World. This was an interesting product to write. When I wrote the Historical Turning Points Galtor, that was an update of the original Galtor campaign sourcebook from the 1980s. In this case, much of what I'm going to be talking about was drawn from the source book, The Kellhounds, which I have pictured. The Kellhounds was a combination source book for the Kellhounds Mercenary Command, as well as a scenario pack detailing some of their notable battles to that point. This is another source book from the 1980s, published by FASA Corporation. It's one of the harder to find source books. Not many people seem to have it. I would show you some of the interior if there were a PDF version. There isn't, at least not an official one. So I fortunately have paper, the original print copy. I believe I might have 2 copies of it. And I was able to use it as a reference for writing the turning point. If you look at the cover here, when we were putting this together, I specifically requested a cover of this nature because the Battle for Mallory's World included a notable event as the Draconis Combine, the black dragon on the red emblem, versus the Federated Suns. This is the Sword and Sunburst. The first prince of the Federated Suns was killed in the battle. So we've got this shroud covering half of the Federated Suns emblem. I love how it turned out. It's one of my favorite things that I've worked on. And I really love I think it's a striking image. So, again, as with the other turning points, a short vignette fiction piece opens the product. In this case, the first prince, Ian Davian, this is his final moments. And my inspiration for this actually comes from a fanzine I was a part of called the Goshen Review, which was like an in-universe magazine from the War College of Goshen. During an issue of that, which I pretty much spearheaded, we made it a tribute issue to First Prince Ian Davian. And in that, I wrote an article in which I suggested that Morgan Kell, one of the legendary mech warriors in the BattleTech setting, who has a special ability called Phantom Mech Ability, in which he can disappear from enemy sensors and basically become the greatest warrior on the field because the enemy can't target him. I wrote it so that he developed that power by seeing Ian Davian hold off the command lance of the Sword of Light before he died on Mallory's World. So what I've done here in this little story, The Desolation of Combat, is detail that. Basically, I have Ian entering that Phantom Mech ability without understanding it, and that's how he's able to survive for so long. But when he gets a message and he suddenly believes maybe he can survive, the power disappears, and that's why he's able to be killed by the enemy. My little stamp on the BattleTech universe. Something I'm quite proud of, considering how short this is, that I was able to take that bit from, my own head canon, basically, and make it into canon for the universe. We've got a world map for Mallory's World. This is, again, typical to turning points, where you are able to see the land masses. This gave me a chance to name a number of these features. Some cities and locations, of course, had already been named because of the earlier products, such as the Kellhounds and some of the novels. And what we've got is a summary of the battle for Mallory's world. Now, this is not just the single battle in which the first prince was killed. That was just one engagement, basically, in a very long series of battles contesting ownership of the world. And most of this had been established. I didn't really change anything. I just tried to flesh it out and give a little more detail where it was lacking. Again, we have random assignment tables. The rats are a crucial component, especially for people who don't necessarily play a lot and don't have their home units to use. This allows people to put together a unit kind of, last minute if they need to. Let's see if I can find where I'm looking for under light mechs. If you look here, if you can see where my cursor's at, I had them put the Stinger and Wasp lambs, the land air mechs, and I had them put the Phoenix Hawk lamb in the medium mechs. This is the first time that land air mechs had appeared in a rat, I believe. I think I was the first one to do it. I kind of insisted on it because the Kellhounds had lambs in their forces, and prior to Technical Readout 3025, it was known that land air mechs were still used by both forces, both factions rather. So I wanted to make sure that they appeared in the rat, and at the end of this product, we put record sheets in there. This product didn't have any custom units. Now, I had designed some custom units, but because the final battle between Morgan Kell and Yorinaga Kurita had already been detailed and listed the weapons that they were firing, I couldn't give them custom units, and they were the most prominent warriors on the field. So if they didn't have custom units, it was rationalized that none of the lesser commanders of either side would have had custom units either. And so that allowed me to lobby to say, well, if we're not going to give any custom units, how about we put the land air mech record sheets in here, because there hadn't been record sheets for them in quite a long time. Again, we've got commanders for the Kurita. It's Taisa Yorinaga Kurita, who was another legendary mech warrior of the BattleTech universe, especially if you've read the novels. I could have put First Prince Ian Davian under commanders, but he was only present during the battle for a very short period before he was killed, so I instead went with Eugene Drivers. It allowed me to do a little more stretching of my writing by creating somebody essentially brand new, at least as far as any of these details. Combatants, again, as with Galtor, this required me to interpolate between the original house books and the field manuals when there was information in both or either. Some of these units didn't really have 3025 special abilities or anything, so I kind of had to make things work for the universe based on what we had available and what we knew of them, some of them from the novels, such as the Kellhounds. And we cover both sides, multiple regiments from each nation. Then we get into the battles. So what we have, you've got the initial engagements, and then you've got, various battles of different types. And then we get into the part where the invaders, the Draconis Combine, House Kurita, seeks to trap the first prince because they know if they can take him out, it's going to be a major accomplishment. So that's what I have, and this was probably the focus of all of the scenarios, is this particular one in which the attacker is only the first prince, and the defender is an assault lance, basically the command lance of the invaders. So this is basically a scenario that seeks to replicate the opening fiction. Then we've got the 2nd Legion of Vega show up. They were reinforcements for the Kurita. They became kind of the scapegoat for the death of the first prince. Another battle. And then I worked something that hadn't really been done, because in the battle, for the world, there were multiple theaters with simultaneous engagements. So I put these together much like I did in Galtor, where I kept the units present and roughly in the same strength. Of course, here I've gone to, rather than saying fixed force sizes, I say, you've got a defender and the attacker is 100% of the defender. That's a game balance issue. But so this one and then the subsequent tracks all take place simultaneously. So that means if you're playing the entire engagement and you have all of the different regiments prepared, you can simulate all of the battles, or you might swap the forces if you want to try to change history. And that's all this really is about here. And then the ultimate battle for the world was the duel between Morgan Kell of the Kellhounds and Yorinaga Kurita of the Draconis Combine. This is one of the legendary battles, the duel between these two, how Morgan Kell looked like he was about to be defeated, but instead of returning fire, he executed a bow in his archer to Yorinaga's warhammer, and this was so humiliating that Kurita immediately stopped the duel and ordered all of the Draconis Combine troops off of the planet. And when one of his warriors thought to challenge that, Yorinaga killed him immediately. Destroyed his battle mech, killed him. And then we get into the battle mechs, but these are not custom units, so they're not really that interesting. This was a great product to write. I really enjoyed it. It allowed me to work with one of the most significant events in BattleTech history, the death of the first prince, the origin of the Phantom Mech ability, and try to put my own stamp on it, try to expand on what was already there without changing anything. And that's one of the balance that you have to strike when you write for BattleTech. There's been a couple million words of canon history, so if you write anything that takes place in the past, you're constrained significantly by what you can do. And trying to find a little loophole here or a gap there where you can insert something that took place that may not have been mentioned can be a challenge, but it can also be a lot of fun when you find the right note to strike. And I think that's what I did here. And if you check this one out, you can still find this online at the Catalyst Game Lab store, I believe, and at Drive-Thru RPG. Give it a shot. Let me know. Until next time, the Doctor is out.